Hello, my friends, and happy Tuesday. I've been studying Chiron for many years, and besides working on my own natal placements, healing, understanding, and integrating, I also help many people to do the same. Now, I want you to understand that Chiron is one of the most important placements for an individual that want to rise up, evolve, and pass that basic wounded version of themselves. With that being said, I've been thinking that it's a great idea to currently start a Chiron series, which will explain many things about it, especially since transiting Chiron is about to station retrograde next week in Taurus, as well as regress back to Aries once again in September. So without further ado, let's begin our journey. First, we're going to talk about the discovery of Chiron, the first Centaur. On 1st November 1977, astronomer Charles Kowal made a discovery that would introduce a completely new archetype into modern astrology. While observing the skies at the Palomar Observatory in California, he identified an unusual celestial object located between the orbits of Saturn and Uranus. Initially classified as an asteroid and given the temporary designation 1977 UB, the object was later named Chiron, after the wise centaur from Greek mythology. However, Chiron did not fit neatly into any existing astronomical category. Unlike the asteroid located primarily between Mars and Jupiter, Chiron followed an unusual elliptical orbit that crossed the region between Saturn and Uranus. And this is very, very important. We're going to get back to this theme and placement of Chiron in the sky many times through our series because it's pretty important. Further observations revealed that it's also displayed characteristics similar to comets, leading astronomers to recognize it as the first discovered member of a new class of object known as the Centaurs, celestial bodies traveling between the outer planets. The discovery of Chiron expanded the boundaries of how humanity understood the solar system. It introduced an object that occupied a unique position, moving through a region that had not previously been explored by astronomy. Its location immediately captured the attention of astrologers because it appeared at a symbolic threshold between the traditional planetary system and the newly discovered outer planets. The traditional planets known to ancient astrologers ended with Saturn, the final visible planet, representing the limits of the known world. Structure, time, responsibility, boundaries, and the physical realities that shape human experience. Beyond Saturn was Uranus, discovered in 1781 with the development of the telescope, marking a turning point in humanity's understanding of the cosmos. Chiron's arrival between these planetary realms introduced a new symbolic layer into astrology. It suggested a process that connects established structures with emergent possibilities, creating a new way to understand growth, healing, and human development. The timing of Chiron's discovery was also pretty significant. The late 1970s were a period of major cultural and psychological change. Society was increasingly exploring new approaches to consciousness, personal development, alternative healing, and humanity's relationship with the universe. The discovery coincided with a growing collective interest in psychology, spirituality, holistic medicine, and the search for meaning beyond traditional systems. From an astrological perspective, the appearance of new celestial bodies often corresponds with the emergence of new collective themes. Just as Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto introduced new dimensions to astrological interpretations after their discoveries, Chiron brought attention to experiences that required a different symbolic language, vulnerability, healing, initiation, and the integration of personal experience. The fact that this new celestial body appeared during such a transformative period became part of its symbolism. A new archetype entered human awareness at a time when humanity was beginning to explore deeper questions about consciousness, identity, and personal evolution. Chiron became the first known member of a Centaur class, representing a new category of objects within the solar system. Its discovery marked the beginning of a deeper exploration into the relationship between human experience, suffering, growth, and consciousness. It arrives as a reminder that evolution often begins when humanity encounters something it does not yet fully understand. Chiron opened a new chapter in astrology, introducing an archetype dedicated to the journey from experience toward awareness. I want to repeat this sentence once again, guys. It arrived as a reminder that evolution often begins when humanity encounters something it does not yet fully understand. It sounds pretty familiar. I mean, like, I feel like we're going through the same exact timing again, okay? Because we literally do not understand what's going on. We're being played around, okay? I mean, collectively. Individually, it may also kind of play out the same, but it's still different. Now we're getting to the chapter 2, and we're going to talk about what is Chiron astronomically. It is a celestial bridge between Saturn and Uranus, as we now understand. But to understand the symbolism of Chiron better, we first need to understand its unusual place within our solar system. Chiron is classified as a Centaur object, as we said, a group of small celestial bodies that orbit between the regions of the outer planets. It follows an elliptical orbit between Saturn and Uranus, crossing the path of both planets over the course of a journey. This astronomical position is what makes Chiron very unique. And you can actually read about it more if you want in the works of esoteric astrology. This is, we mostly talk about Chiron being this rainbow bridge over there. It does not belong entirely to the familiar realm of the traditional planets, nor does it fully reside with the distant domain of the outer planets. Its movement through this transitional zone became the foundation for one of the most important symbolic meanings associated with Chiron, the ability to connect different realms of experience. In astrology, Saturn represents the principles of form, structure, boundaries, responsibilities, and time. It governs the systems that create order and stability in human life. Our commitments, limitations, social structures, inherited patterns, and the lessons gained through experience. So we see already connection. It also teaches us through reality, right? It shows us what requires patience, discipline, and maturity. Without Saturn, actually, ideas remain ungrounded and growth lacks the structure needed to become sustainable. Right? We have dreamers, and sometimes dreamers cannot build, so they stay dreamers. But those who have the ability to build, they build themselves and their future. However, Saturn also can represent rigidity when established form continue to exist after they have fulfilled their purpose. Uranus, on the other hand, represents a different principle entirely. As the first planet discovered beyond Saturn, Uranus expanded humanity's understanding of a solar system and symbolically represented the breaking of previous boundaries. Astrologically, Uranus is associated with innovation, awakening, liberation, individuality, disruption, and perspectives. It challenges established patterns and introduces possibilities that were previously impossible to imagine. Where Saturn preserves, Uranus transforms. Right? Saturn creates a structure. Uranus, like breaking the structure, seeks freedom. So these two forces represent different stages of development, the wisdom gained from experience and our impulse to move beyond what has become limiting. I also want you to remember, I mean, like if you know, then remember that there is a deeper symbolism between Saturn and Uranus through a mythology. Okay, so it's the same themes and patterns appear, and Chiron here plays a very important role. So its orbit between Saturn and Uranus creates a very symbolic relationship between these two principles. It shows that evolution does not happen through rejecting the past completely or remaining attached to it indefinitely. Growth requires an understanding of what has shaped us while also allowing space for new awareness to emerge. The wisdom of Saturn and the awakening of Uranus work together through the Chiron archetype. The structures we inherit, the experiences we carry, and the limitations we encounter can become source of insight when approached consciously. On a psychological level, this reflects a fundamental human experience. Every person carries patterns, beliefs, and experiences formed through family, culture, society, and personal history. These influences create the foundation from which we develop. At the same time, every individual contains the impulse toward growth, authenticity, and self-discovery. There is a part of us that seeks question, evolve, and express something uniquely our own. Chiron represents the process of bringing these two realities into a relationship. It asks us to examine what has shaped us, understand its meaning fully, and transform our experiences into greater awareness. The question Chiron presents is actually, how do you escape what has shaped you? I mean, like, not that, but the deeper question is how you can transform this experience that sometimes we consider wounded or bad experience into a wisdom. So the significance of Chiron's astronomical position lies in this specific integration. It reveals that development is not just a rejection of past or an escape into the future. Instead, it is the conscious relationship between experience and evolution. Through Chiron, astrology gained a symbol for the process of turning awareness into healing and experience into understanding. So, its place between Saturn and Uranus reflects a fundamental human journey, learning what has come before while remaining open to what is yet to emerge. Now we're getting to chapter 3, Chiron and mythology, the wounded teacher. Basically, that's the name that it's known mostly in astrology. Although the meaning of Saturn, like I told you, and we will continue to discover it more in our series tomorrow and after tomorrow, that its meaning is much more deeper than that. And this is just like a very basic meaning. I also would love to share with you in these upcoming days a perspective of another astrologer who unfortunately passed away in the recent years, but whose work I've been admiring, especially on Chiron and Black Moon Lilith. So, but this is in another time. Right now, we're going to talk about the Chiron in mythology and its wounded healing position. So, before Chiron became an astrological symbol, he existed as one of the most unique figures in Greek mythology. His tale is far beyond suffering and healing, as I said. It is more a story of consciousness, initiation, wisdom, and the transformation of personal experience into a source of understanding. Unlike the other Centaurs of Greek mythology, who were often portrayed as wild, impulsive, and driven primarily by instinct, Chiron was different from the birth. He represented a higher expression of the Centaur archetype, the integration of animal nature with human intelligence, knowledge, and awareness. According to Greek mythology, Chiron was the son of the Titan Cronus and the nymph Philyra. Unlike the other Centaurs who were generally associated with human and animal origins only, Chiron also belonged to a divine lineage, right? His unusual nature placed him outside ordinary categories, giving him a unique position among mythological beings. This distinction shaped his role through the myths. Chiron was not only defined by instinct alone, he embodied the ability to develop wisdom, cultivate knowledge, and use this experience as a part towards the greater understanding. He was also the teacher of the heroes. Chiron lived on the mountain Pelion and became known as one of the greatest teachers of ancient Greece. His knowledge extended across many disciplines, including medicine, music, philosophy, astronomy, hunting, ethics, and the healing arts. I mean, like, one can only dream. Among his students were some of the most famous heroes of Greek mythology, including Achilles, Jason, Asclepius, and Hercules. His teachings were not just limited to mastery of the skills. Chiron prepared his students for the deeper challenges of life, which are much more meaningful and deep, right? Responsibility, courage, self-knowledge, and the consequences of one's actions, which is very important. And now many people are lacking that. We need Chiron back in this original form here. Chiron was an initiator. He guided others through the process of developing their potential and understanding their place within the larger order of life. His wisdom came not only from knowledge, but from experience. He understood that true learning requires confronting difficulty, accepting vulnerability, and developing awareness through lived experience. The central event of Chiron's myth occurred through an accident involving Hercules. During a battle with the Centaurs, Hercules used arrows poisoned with the blood of the Hydra, whatever you want to say. One of their arrows accidentally struck Chiron. Now, because Chiron was immortal, he could not escape his suffering through death. The wound became a permanent part of his existence. This detail forms the foundation of Chiron's symbolism. His suffering was not just an obstacle to remove, it became an experience that transformed his understanding of pain, compassion, and healing. Chiron knew suffering directly. He did not just study it from the distance and observe it in others. He basically embodied it. He lived through that for quite some time, right? Through his own experience, he developed a deep awareness of vulnerability and the human condition. Because he understood pain so personally and so deeply, he was also able to guide and support others with greater compassion. Eventually, Chiron chose to give up his immortality. In some versions of the myth, he exchanged his immortality to free Prometheus, who had been punished by Zeus for giving fire to humanity. Through this act, Chiron transformed his own suffering into an offering that served a greater purpose. After his death, Zeus honored Chiron by placing him among the stars as the constellation Centaurus. The symbolism of its final act is very profound. Chiron's journey had nothing to do with eliminating his suffering or pretending that the wound never existed, right? Like many people do right now. They're just like, no, it does not exist. They become numb. No, it's actually not the correct way. And this is also, we're going to talk further about it, because I help many people to integrate their chironic wounds and to understand what actually needs to be done, because it's becoming basically, it shapes who you are in one way or another, whether you consciously understand it or not. So the wound is about actually discovering the meaning within the experience and allowing it to become a source of wisdom and service to others. I think it's actually pretty relevant right now, the whole meaning of Chiron, because we are just entered into lunar nodes with Aquarius as a north node and Leo as a south node. And in this service to others become more prominent themes, collective, what I can do for others, how I can contribute to others, understanding, healing, development, rather than just to, always pull the blanket to yourself, like me, like this is like actually Leo's undeveloped version, and I've met many different Leos with the sun or moon and rising and other planets, and this is the unconscious and lower part of this sign, which with years they are suffering from that too, but it's very, very hard, sometimes, not all the time. I met pretty profound and amazing Leo people, but it's hard for them to integrate it, especially if they have like other complicated positions. So modern astrology often describes Chiron as the wounded healer, as we established, but the phrase represents only one part of its mythology. The deeper archetype is defined by the consciousness that develops through engaging with the wound and experience itself. He represents the process of accepting experience, gaining understanding, and integrating what has been learned. The wound becomes teacher, the teacher becomes a guide, and all this experience becomes wisdom. To this day, Chiron remains one of the most powerful symbols in astrology. His mythology reflects one of the most universal human journeys, the ability to transform suffering into consciousness and personal experience into a deeper capacity to understand, heal, and serve. In the next part of series, which coming up tomorrow, we will explore Chiron's deeper psychological meaning, the nature of the wound, the difference between pain and initiation, and also why Chiron became one of the most powerful symbols of healing in modern astrology. Thank you so much for taking time to explore this deeper symbolism of Chiron with me. And I just want to say that Chiron reminds us that our experiences are not just an isolated events. They become part of our wisdom, our perspective, and the way we connect with ourselves and others. That's why I always say nothing happened, nothing is coincidental, guys. Everything is a part of our journey. There is no such thing, well, in my opinion, and in a region, of the stories of everything, there's no such thing, good or bad. Everything depends on your perspective and your understanding. So I always invite you to rise up and to become, from time to time, an observer to your life. Stop taking everything so personally. If you rise up and look at everything from pilot's view or bird's view, you will see a full picture and not take everything closely into your heart. And when you're on the ground, right, as a metaphor, imagine yourself in Manhattan, all these buildings, everything is like, whoa, everything is super important and dramatic, you know. But again, you rise up above these buildings and they're not so intimidating anymore. The same goes here. You just need to understand the deeper meaning of your personal placement of Chiron. So there you look at your house, you look at the sign, and obviously you also look at the aspects that this placement makes. And then the picture becomes full. If you need any help, I'm here for you. You can just DM me. So when we learn to read these patterns consciously, we're not longer using astrology just as a prediction, but actually using it as guidance system. It becomes a tool for self-understanding, timing, reflection, and intentional growth. And I'm talking so patiently about because I literally dedicated years of my life working on myself and also helping others. So it's truly that amazing. Seriously, it is an amazing tool. You can tell absolutely everything. It will never stop to amaze me, okay? So if you would like to explore your own personal Chiron placement or any other natal chart patterns or the deeper connection between astrology, wellness, and your own unique constitution, you can always book a personalized consultation with me. And I want to thank you for being part of this journey of the exploration and discovery. As always, please comment below, share your thoughts, ask questions. I'm here for you. Please follow my socials as well as my Substack, YouTube, and others. And love you all. Have a great Tuesday.